Welcome to this week's vlog. Today we have Randy Peyser, who is someone who can get you published traditionally if you have all your ducks in the row and you don't have an agent and you need somebody who will really go out and shop your book. So Randy, a little bit about her. She helps people get book deals with literary agents and publishers. She edits and ghostwrites books and pitches manuscripts to literary agents and publishers. Her clients have been featured in Oprah Magazine, Time Magazine, The Wall Street Journal, the USA Today, all bestseller lists, and on Hallmark TV and Daily Mail TV. The books have been sold nationally to big box stores and airport stores and have been featured in prominent media outlets, and a number of them have won prestigious awards. Randy also places her books in 5-star luxury hotels and national magazine, which I would like to talk more about since I believe we might have just placed somebody that we referred to you there. Her company is called www.author1stop.com. Randy is also an author several times over. She's written the Write a Book program, Crappy to Happy, which I always love saying that, when it was actually featured in a movie, Eat, Pray, Love, and The Power of Miracle Thinking. Her work is further featured in Healing the Heart and the World, The Marriage of Sex and Spirit, Visionary Women Inspiring the World, Secrets of Shameless Self-Promoters, Book Marketing from A to Z, Dojo Wisdom for Writers, and the Networking Magic. If you look up the word savvy in the dictionary, a picture of Randy appears. Is that true? No, that's not true. That's what David Tyerman said, the branding strategist for Ralph Lauren and author of World Famous. So welcome. That was probably, we're done now. Your resume was so long that our show is over. No. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here and happy to help people get book deals and provide any information I can that will help people get to that place.
That's so awesome. So, of course, since you are the magic woman, what did he just call you? Wait a minute. Hold on. What did he just say you were?
He said, if you look up the definition of savvy.
Okay. Since you are so savvy, how about you tell us about some of your recent successes?
Oh, I'd absolutely love to. Thank you. Very recently, I had 6 authors offered 11 contracts between them. Woo-hoo. So this is my 18th year of pitching manuscripts at Book Expo America. And Book Expo America is the feeding frenzy for the entire publishing industry in the United States. And actually, publishers and people come from all over the world to pitch there. So this is my 18th year of pitching at this show. And so I make appointments with agents and publishers, and in 2.5 days, I had 41 appointments.
Wow.
It's insane, the amount of pitching that I do. But the result was 6 of my authors being offered 11 contracts. Now, I pitch both to agents and to publishers. When I have fiction, I will typically pitch to agents. And the agents I'm pitching to are the kind of agents who can get movie deals for people. In fact, I have one book right now that's under consideration by 3 Hollywood movie producers for film. And it's a memoir. It's called Slave, A Human Trafficking Survivor Finds Life. Oh, wow. And it was actually featured on Daily Mail TV, a national TV show recently. They did like a 60-minute style reporting of this incredible man's journey. And so I love getting people book deals. And so if it's fiction, I'll typically pitch to agents directly, although I did sell a fiction project just last month directly to a publisher. And so then nonfiction, I'll go directly to publishers. And I've been selling all kinds of books, and it was incredible for 6 authors to have 11 contracts and get to choose. That's such an unusual scenario, so I'm really happy I could create it. And in this year's lineup, I sold multiple business books, Mind, Body, Spirit, and let's see what else. And then the 3 fiction, and then I had 3 books that came out recently. One was Remodeling Success. Another one, Kindness in a Scary World, is slated to be on Dr. Oz. I don't know the date yet. And that's a children's book to help parents explain terrorism and bad news to children. And then the slave book also came out, Slave, about the human trafficking survivor who finds life. So those are recent, but I work with all kinds of books and all different genres.
So I have to ask, just because it popped into my head,
Yes.
I interviewed you a couple of years ago and you told us what was in and out in the fiction world. And I remember it was like werewolves are out and
werewolves are out, definitely. I mean, so many categories are glutted. I have publishers looking for thrillers, but the writing has to be very, very strong. Every single agent will say, we need fresh writing. Fresh is the big word in writing. So, one of the biggest mistakes, I'd like to share one of the biggest mistakes that writers make, both in nonfiction and fiction. And it's a basic rule in writing where we say, show, don't tell. And so many manuscripts we get in are telling. So I want to explain a little bit about the difference because it's just so critical. If you write a sentence and you shut your eyes, can you see it very clearly? Will your reader who is not in your brain see something, an example very, very clearly? If not, you're telling. If you're telling me you're scared, that's telling. If you're showing me you're scared, you're describing that visually. You're shaking in your shoes, you're running, your breath changes, be descriptive. And so that's like one of the biggest problems. Like, in my company, we start by analyzing a book. I'm not going to pitch anything unless I know it's stellar because my reputation's on the line all the time. And when I sit with a publisher who, honest to God, tells me that he gets 10,000 submissions a year, and that's roughly, we're going to just do basic math, 860 a month, and it's my job to get your manuscript to the top of that pile. It had better be a strong book. Otherwise, I'm not going to be considered. My projects won't be considered. And I want to get you a book deal. That's what I love to do.
So I want to ask you about that. I'm so glad you brought that up because that is what I struggle with most. And I actually go out. I was just telling someone, when I write, I go out and I people watch so that I take pictures so I can describe mannerisms. How do people who are generally those who typically tell, I just said that like the longest possible way I could. How do you get experience or how do you get education on the difference in how to write between the two? Because I agree, I see a lot of that as well where it's telling, not showing. How do you
Yes, let me answer this. People process information in different ways. Sensorily speaking. So, for example, there are visual people who are going to describe things in terms of what I see, what it looks like. There are people who are more auditory, and so they're going to talk about sounds. That sounds true. That rings true for me. There are kinesthetic people, and so, touch, and, I feel. Those are kinesthetic statements. So as you're writing, try to bring in all the sensory data. I would say more people are probably visual. I'm more auditory. So I'm kind of like auditory kinesthetic. So things sound good. They feel right. That touches me. So when I'm writing, I have to get more visual and I have to be aware of that.
Good answer. Okay. Very nice. So I just had, and you and I know this is very typical in the industry. I just had someone I told you about before we got on who brought me a manuscript and said he'd been rejected several times for a platform. And I know you hear this all the time too. Can you describe when someone brings a book to you? What do you look for? What do you have to have
absolutely.
before you can go shop that book for those people?
Yes.
What does that look like?
Okay, well, I'll tell you a pitch I did where I sold a book with my nose.
What?
I am serious. This is a very funny story. So I'm at Book Expo America, this big pitch fest, we're sitting with a top agent, and I take my own, I call it my secret sauce, and I put together a particular kind of sales sheet because I'm always looking to put something on that sheet, which is only about your project, that's going to get I call it the eyebrow factor. What can I say to get an eyebrow to go up?
Mhm.
And so I was sitting at this meeting and the agent said, okay, what do you have for me this year? And I took this special pitch sheet that I have, and I'm just going to use my calendar here as an example. And I took the pitch sheet and I went like this. I smell money. And, the agents, and I said it really loudly with that pitch sheet, and I'm inhaling, I smell money. She said, like, well, the eyebrows, they weren't even the size of quarters. They were the size of $50. What do you got for me? What do you got for me? And, when I pitched, I showed her that project, and it turned out to be a three-way bidding war between Simon & Schuster, HarperCollins, and McGraw-Hill. And it went for 6 figures. Why? Because this person had a huge platform. Very huge platform. So the big buzzword in the publishing industry is platform. And thank God there are people like you, Juliet, who are helping people to build their platforms. Because 20 years ago, when I was pitching books, not one agent or publisher ever said, tell me about the size of their social media following.
Mm-hmm.
Now that following is critical, and there is not one publisher, not one acquisitions editor who I meet with. There's nobody. Every agent, every single one of them is going to ask me that question. And so my first book I wrote, Crappy to Happy, which, like you mentioned, Julia Roberts holds up in the movie Eat, Pray, Love. It took me 4 years to find a publisher. And it wasn't until I was out in the world doing a one-woman show where I had eyeballs on me that I got myself a book deal. And as soon as I had eyeballs on me, I had a book deal within 2 weeks of the book expo.
Mm-hmm.
So the larger your platform, and people will say, like, what kind of numbers do I need? And I say, well, if I'm pitching a book and there's 860 manuscripts being considered a month with that one particular publisher, for example, your numbers just have to be higher than somebody else's. They have to love your topic, and publishers want to see that you're already out there. Not what you're going to do once the book comes out, but what are you doing now? What eyeballs are on you now?
Mm-hmm.
Are you out speaking? Are you creating Facebook or whatever, wherever your demographic, wherever your audience is? Are you reaching them now? And the greater you're reaching them, the happier publishers are, and the easier it is to get a contract.
So in that space, would you, I know you said it has to be higher than someone else. Would you say they need, first of all, does the email list factor in at all?
Totally. Yes, totally. So every number you can produce. One of the things that's very helpful is that, I help, and you might help people do this as well, I'm not sure, Juliet, to create a big mouth list of, launch campaign partners. Who are the people who have large lists that you can leverage?
Mm-hmm.
So, who will send out an announcement on your behalf, when your book comes out, because all of those numbers count. We put all of them into a proposal when I'm pitching.
You know what, we do, but here's the caveat with it. There has to be, this is where it's really hard to get people to do this. There has to be something in that list for it. So if you have a funnel built and you have programs or something where they can make money, they can be a JV partner, they can leverage selling your book and make money off it, not off your book, but off your programs, that's even better. Because if you can approach a partner and say, yes, there's definitely something in this for you and your audience, they are more likely to sign on to that. So we really, when we do that, we stress that you have to have a funnel fully built out so that enticing, so you can follow up with these people, so you can keep them engaged, because that list doesn't build overnight either. So that's a great point. So the big mouth campaign, the email campaign, the social media, what would you say, like ballpark, people have to accumulate to really have eyes on them, numbers wise?
It depends on the publisher, because there are larger publishers and their numbers are going to be quite different than a mid-range publisher. Okay. Or a smaller publisher. I've had like people with a 5,000 person list, or sometimes smaller lists, but they're more visible in certain in other areas, or they're out speaking more. It completely depends. I have an 90-year-old client who I got a book deal. One of the fiction pieces that I pitched, and I call this woman the Grandma Moses of the publishing world. She's phenomenal. The writing, I was like in awe of the writing, and I'm really excited about that project.
Uh-huh.
She just turned 90, but she's a Harvard fellow. And so Harvard is going to put out an announcement to their alumni list. And that's certainly one of, that's a large list. And that's one of the ways that I was able to pitch that particular book. So where are you known, and what circles and what associations are you connected to? Anything that we can use as real data, let's use it. And I started working with a new program recently, Juliet. You mentioned it very briefly at the beginning of our conversation, but this is something that we can also put in the plan potentially, and I'll explain this a little bit. I've started working with a program called bedsidereading.com. And in this program, started by Jane Ubell Meyer, who's a longtime friend of mine, we're getting books placed in 5-star luxury hotels. So like, the Aquilina, Shutters on the Beach, Waldorf Astoria, Mandarin Oriental New York, Mandarin Oriental Washington, and other major venues. We just got the Hamilton in Washington, and they have like 2 floors of this very exclusive hotel just for women travelers. And we're placing books by the bedside. Mm-hmm. So authors, right now, Penguin Random House, St. Martin's Press, Hachette, Simon & Schuster, Macmillan, and HarperCollins, many other publishers are using this service every single month now. They're putting books in the program because they understand the value of word-of-mouth marketing. And who are the people who are staying in these rooms? If you're somebody who wants a speaking engagement in a corporate setting, well, here's the corporate decision makers who can afford $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a night rooms. Here are the CEOs, the VIPs, and the celebrities, and film people. So, it's a great venue to be placed in.
No, I agree. And I just want to mention, I referred a young lady that I've known for quite a while, and her writing partner over to Randy. And I want to say this so that you understand how much work this takes sometimes. The young lady that I referred to her has written over 20 books. She's also been building her platform since, I believe, about 2007, 2008. And she had the kind of numbers that Randy was looking for to get into this arena. And I just want you to just really grasp how long it took her to build a 20,000 list, a list with 20,000 people on it. I think she has a pretty decent social media following. She has her own company that does different things in the book world too. So, kind of keep in mind when you're getting into these, how much of an audience you really, really need to be intent on building to get to these places.
Well, I want to clarify something. For this program, the luxury book program, we're not concerned about numbers at all. Oh. So let me explain that. What we need are reviews, Amazon reviews showing, like 5-star reviews. And all the books are vetted both by Jane and by the hotels. We also do a summer program in the Hamptons, and we're going into like 6 very elite hotels in the Hamptons as well for the summer. So what we need is a really great book. That's what we really need. And so the program was just recently opened to indie publishers and self-published authors. So it's like all the major publishers are using it, but all books are vetted.
Very nice, very nice. That's really exciting when they open it up to indies. But it has to be a good indie book.
Yes, and so when I'm going to pitch a project to an agent and I say, the author is committed to doing this program, that's certainly one of the things that will tip the sale in your favor.
Good. That's really great to know. So what do you look for in a client? What do you really need when someone comes to you and says, I want my book traditionally published? Let me tell you a little bit about the process. Because I do take in all kinds of books. Like if people say, well, what is your target market demographic? And I can look at my whiteboard where I keep many projects going at once because I have a team of the top editors in the country working with me. And so I can look and I can say, okay, let's see, I have a woman, a grandmother creating a legacy book. I have some top CEOs. I've got, just some lawyers writing thrillers. I have, just
any number, some gift books, some children's books, some teachers, some, all different kinds of life coaches, all different kinds of professions and healers. And so there is no specific demographic that I look for. But what I am looking for is a well-written book that can really answer a question for a reader, which is, what's in it for me? Mm-hmm. Because, like right now, one of the problems I'm seeing, and a lot of people are going to maybe be surprised by this, but a lot of people are writing memoirs now. We have a huge wave of boomers and younger writing their memoirs. People have been through very difficult circumstances or abuse or whatever in their life. They've overcome some challenge. They want to help others. But there is such a glut of memoir right now. So that memoir has to stand out in a way that's trending. So, for example, Slave, a human trafficking survivor finds life. Obviously, human trafficking is a huge issue right now. So that's, just one example. But if you're writing a memoir, you've really got to differentiate. So I just want to say that. So let me get back to a little bit about the process. When I get a manuscript in, the first thing we're going to do is a read through and written analysis. How strong is this book? Do we think it's really potentially sellable? Do we think a publisher is really going to be interested in it? And then we're also pointing out, like in the comments margin in Word, anything that we find that would be a red flag from a publisher's perspective. So for example, like I said, like telling, not showing, we would say, this is telling, this is what showing would look like. So that the person can go back and create a stronger manuscript. Mm-hmm. So once we've gone through the analysis round, then we edit. And then after we edit, we put together, or help the author put together, whatever's required to pitch the book in addition to the manuscript. So for example, for nonfiction, we have to submit a proposal, a book proposal, which is not a query letter, a book proposal. And I'm a master of the proposal. Thank God for that, because I help all these people get deals. But the proposal is like a really strong piece to selling this book. We are literally proving the sale of this book over other books. Why does the publisher want this book? What is the reader going to get from it? Competitive titles, market analysis. We help authors do all of this.
That is great. So I have a question for you. Just it popped into my head here. I have a friend who has an authorized biography from a very well-known person in the public eye. Is that something that they would bring to you and you would shop for them? Because she's been real hesitant to shop it herself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, especially, and would she need a significant platform with the name out, with the big name?
Probably not. I mean, the media, the publishers love people who are big in the media.
Yes, and she's the person is very big in the media.
And especially to have an authorized biography, I think that's incredible. We would have to show in writing, we would have to have like a legal permissions waiver, things like that. But as long as the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, absolutely, I would pitch that.
Yeah, no, she does. She got into all that. She asked very early on, what do you need?
Good.
A piece of paper saying it's okay.
Yeah, and that's something I can mention for anyone writing a book. If you're quoting other people or you're using their stories like in an anthology, you better have a signed waiver from every single person. And if you're going for a traditional publisher, they will ask me for that. Please send us everyone who is signed. So
yeah, no, I believe it was my second book. I had to take a piece out because I quoted words from a song that was supposed to be on the radio. And I called the record company or the agent, or I forget who I called, that was associated with that person who sang it, and they wanted royalties from the book.
Yeah. Yeah, like, songs. I've seen that with songs, and you got to be very careful.
I can't even guarantee that this book is going to make you money or make money.
Yes. Yes.
So you have to be really careful what you put in, that you always have permission, because last thing you want to do is get sued over a book and lose it.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yes. So,
Randy, this has been amazing information. And how do we find you? Where do we go? And you know what? Before we get there, I have another question.
Please.
I was going to do it. Do you polish, like if you see potential, if you, somebody, obviously people pay to have their books analyzed, I would imagine, right?
Yes.
So if you see gold in there, do you help them clean it up at all? I mean, I know you mentioned the show
Totally.
not tell, but
Yeah, totally.
you actually help them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, I would say my sweet spot is get the content right and pitch it and sell it. That is my sweet spot in the publishing world.
Cool.
So yeah, I'll take anybody from who has an idea for a book, and maybe we'll do like a positioning consultation to start with. Because I tell people, there's a book you write and a book a publisher will buy and readers will buy. Is it the same book? We want to make sure you have the best chance. Or I'll take people who, it's partially written, they've written some chapters, or they've written the entire thing and it's ready to be polished. Wherever they are in the process, we will work with them. Because I have a team of ghostwriters and editors who work for me, and my criteria is so high. So my criteria is that everyone has to have worked for a publisher or have edited or ghostwritten books that have sold to publishers. Because I don't just want great writing. I want a book that a publisher is going to buy. And so people who have worked in the industry, we really do have the inside edge.
That is so cool. So where do we find you? If we have that book, or we think we have that book, where do we find you at?
So I have a pretty strong website called www.authoronestop.com. And the one is spelled out ONE, authoronestop.com.
Okay, very cool. Thank you so much. This was so informative today.
You're very welcome.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.